that we spent with Shedeur, and what he's done throughout his college career is impressive. He's an impressive young man. He's a really good quarterback. Sometimes fit comes into play.
Andrew Berry's decision to pull the trigger on a massive Shedeur Sanders trade has thrown the NFL into absolute chaos. Overnight, a rookie quarterback who was supposed to be Cleveland's future centerpiece is now the focus of league-wide headlines, fan outrage, and executive scrambling. It's not just a roster move, it's a power play that changes ratings, ticket sales, and the competitive balance of the season. The question hanging over every NFL conversation now is simple. Did Berry just make the boldest gamble of his career, or the biggest mistake the league has seen in years? TV ratings surged by nearly 28% the moment Shedeur Sanders first stepped onto the field in Cleveland, a number that immediately separated him from most rookies in recent NFL history. That's why Andrew Berry's decision to move him in a blockbuster trade didn't just affect the Browns' quarterback depth chart, it shook the entire infrastructure of the league. For Cleveland, the aftermath began instantly. Season ticket holders flooded the team's office with calls demanding answers. Resale markets collapsed as fans offloaded seats that had been purchased specifically to watch Sanders, and sportsbooks across the country slashed Browns-related bets by nearly half once the trade was announced. On a league scale, executives and broadcast partners realized in real time that the NFL's most bankable rookie story had just been yanked out of one of the league's hungriest football markets, leaving both opportunity and panic in its wake. In the locker room, the shockwaves were no less dramatic. Sanders had logged over 1,100 preseason passing yards with a 66% completion rate, more than any Cleveland rookie quarterback in decades. Coaches leaned heavily on his rhythm with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, especially in red zone reps, and the plan had been clear: develop Sanders slowly while letting his natural star power energize the fan base. Trading him stripped the roster of its most electric piece, leaving Kevin Stefanski scrambling to reconfigure practice reps between a backup rotation that was never expected to shoulder the offense. That lack of film with the starters now means Cleveland enters week 1 with far more questions than answers, while every rival defense is recalibrating how to prepare against a team that looks completely different without Sanders under center. From a financial standpoint, the impact was even sharper. Within 48 hours of the trade, Sanders' jersey sales, which had topped all rookies and ranked top 5 league-wide through August, spiked again, but not for the Browns. His new team instantly saw demand for merchandise triple, while Cleveland's online shop reported a 63% drop in daily sales, a collapse that echoed the mood of a city that felt blindsided. Ticket sales mirrored that decline. Resale platforms tracked average Browns home game prices falling from $275 per seat to barely $140, a freefall that wiped out months of off-season marketing momentum. Even television schedules, set months in advance, suddenly looked vulnerable. 4 of Cleveland's primetime games had been packaged around Sanders' arrival, and networks are now quietly exploring whether they're staring at multi-million-dollar losses if viewership tanks without him. The larger consequence for the NFL is that Shedeur Sanders wasn't just another promising quarterback. He was a ratings engine at a time when the league is fighting to keep younger audiences hooked. National broadcasts built entire segments around his dual identity, as both Deion Sanders' son and a marketable star in his own right. The trade scrambled that narrative overnight, forcing the NFL to shift marketing resources toward other rookies or lean even harder on veterans to carry storylines. For gambling operators and fantasy platforms, the ripple effect was immediate. Prop bets involving Sanders dropped off by nearly 50%, and fantasy signups mentioning his name cratered after climbing steadily during preseason. The vacuum created by his departure isn't just about who starts for Cleveland, it's about how much the NFL has lost in leverage, attention, and business in one move that nobody saw coming. Shedeur Sanders' trade matters right now because his value goes beyond box scores. It cuts into how the NFL sells its product, both in Cleveland and across the country. On the field, Sanders had already built a profile as one of the most accurate rookie quarterbacks in recent memory, posting a preseason completion rate above 65% while averaging just under 270 passing yards per game. Those numbers weren't empty stat lines in August. They gave Cleveland's offense rhythm, generated optimism that hadn't existed in years, and positioned Sanders as a genuine contender to make the Browns more than a fringe playoff team. By trading him, Andrew Berry has essentially rewritten Cleveland's postseason map math overnight. Prior to the deal, most models projected the Browns' playoff odds hovering around 48% with Sanders at the helm, largely due to a softer early schedule. Without him, those same models have dipped to under 30%, a swing that could define not just this season, but Barry's tenure as general manager. The league as a whole understands why this hurts now. Cleveland was one of the rare franchises that had a chance to transform national viewership through a rookie quarterback storyline. Sanders' father, Deion, had already made him one of the most recognized names in football before he even took an NFL snap, and early signs showed that recognition translated directly into business. During preseason, Browns games with Sanders under center averaged an additional 900,000 viewers compared to the same time slots a year prior. Locally, Nielsen ratings jumped by 34%, eclipsing even regular season Cavaliers broadcasts in a basketball-centric city. Those numbers were part of the NFL's pitch to advertisers and broadcast partners, that Shedeur Sanders was the new bridge between traditional fans and younger, streaming-driven audiences. Losing him in Cleveland shatters that pitch in real time, and the NFL is now facing a marketing gap that can't be easily filled by sliding another rookie into the spotlight. From a locker room standpoint, the urgency is even sharper. Sanders wasn't just Cleveland's most talented young player, he was a stabilizing presence in practices, especially in drills with the first-team offense. Teammates repeatedly praised his poise and ability to reset after mistakes, qualities that coaches identified as the foundation for giving him significant reps early in the season. Trading him forces Stefanski to reassign those reps to quarterbacks who had been penciled in as backups, players who haven't had consistent time with the starting offensive line or skill position groups. That lack of chemistry isn't theoretical, it's measurable. During preseason sessions without Sanders, red zone efficiency dropped from 58% to 41%, a clear sign that his presence mattered in game preparation. Heading into a season where every AFC North matchup is projected to be razor thin, that drop-off is catastrophic. The timing of the trade also amplifies the panic. Cleveland was already facing one of the most unforgiving opening stretches in the league, with matchups against Baltimore and Cincinnati within the first month. Sanders had been positioned as the quarterback who could inject unpredictability into those divisional games, forcing defenses to prepare for a style they hadn't yet seen on NFL film. Now, those same defenses are salivating at the chance to pressure a restructured quarterback room that lacks both Sanders' arm talent and the energy he brought to the fan base. That advantage isn't abstract, it could swing divisional standings before October. The NFL knows how valuable divisional rivalries are to TV partners, and losing a storyline as magnetic as Sanders versus Lamar Jackson or Sanders versus Joe Burrow is a setback that ripples beyond Cleveland. All of this explains why the league is panicking in the immediate term. Sanders wasn't just a player, he was a pivot point in how the NFL structured its season-long narratives. With him gone from Cleveland, the league faces lower playoff odds in a critical market, slashed ratings projections, and a scramble to reassign spotlight moments to other stars. It's a rare moment where one trade forces executives, coaches, and fans alike to admit that the NFL's most marketable rookie might have just been removed from the stage at the worst possible time. Unlike Patrick Mahomes' rookie season, where Kansas City could afford to let him sit behind Alex Smith and ease into the spotlight, Shedeur Sanders never had the luxury of patience. Cleveland needed him on the field right away, and the NFL built entire narratives around his immediate presence. That's what makes this trade so jarring. Rookie quarterbacks who draw this kind of national attention are rarely moved, and the handful of historical examples show just how damaging or transformative such moves can be. When Robert Griffin III burst onto the scene in 2012, Washington saw local TV ratings spike nearly 40%, with national broadcasts adding millions of viewers whenever he played. Even Cam Newton's rookie year in Carolina, where he threw for over 4,000 yards, lifted Panthers' attendance from 90% capacity to near sellouts, despite the team struggling in the standings. Sanders was on that exact trajectory, and pulling him away from Cleveland strips both the Browns and the NFL of a storyline that has proven measurable impact in the past. The comparisons go deeper when you look at performance stats tied to business outcomes. During Griffin's rookie campaign, merchandise sales ranked in the league's top 5, and Carolina's ticket resale market in Newton's debut season doubled in average value compared to the year before. Sanders had already matched those benchmarks before taking his first regular season snap. His jersey outsold every other rookie by more than 20%, and resale ticket data from preseason games showed Brown seats reselling at nearly 3 times face value. That's the type of economic surge that franchises in the league rely on when selling media rights, sponsorships, and advertising inventory. Trading him away isn't just losing a quarterback, it's eliminating a financial model that historically only a handful of rookies have ever generated. There's also a stark contrast in how those previous rookies were managed versus Sanders' trajectory. Griffin was overused and suffered for it. Newton was given full reign to reinvent Carolina's offense around his skill set. Mahomes, on the other hand, was strategically protected, given limited exposure until he was ready to explode statistically and commercially. Sanders was in the middle of those paths. Cleveland's staff had designed an offense around his strengths, but with guardrails in place to prevent burnout. The trade interrupts that arc entirely, and now another franchise inherits not only Sanders' talent, but the infrastructure Cleveland built to maximize him. From the NFL's perspective, that's lost investment in marketing and scheduling that can't be easily recouped. Even looking at other rookie quarterbacks who became national draws, think Andrew Luck in Indianapolis or Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, the key factor was stability. Both franchises doubled down on their commitment, and the payoff came not just in playoff contention, but in long-term fan loyalty. Luck's arrival boosted Colts' season ticket renewals by 17% year over year, while Burrow helped Cincinnati jump from the bottom tier of merchandise sales into the top 10. Cleveland had that same opportunity, arguably on a bigger scale, because Sanders carried the added weight of his family name and cultural visibility. Losing that stability through a trade doesn't just mirror past mistakes, it magnifies them because the league has concrete evidence of what happens when a franchise stays the course with a rookie quarterback who captures national attention. The uniqueness of Sanders' trade is that it represents a reversal of a proven formula. Historically, when the NFL identifies a rookie quarterback capable of moving ratings, tickets, and merchandise, everything is built to protect that asset. That's why the league leaned so heavily into Mahomes once he became the starter, and why Burrow's return from injury was treated like a national storyline. By contrast, Sanders being dealt so early feels like breaking the rules of the modern NFL business model. For a league obsessed with consistency in its marketing, the comparison to those earlier cases underscores just how disruptive Andrew Berry's move is, not just for the Browns roster, but for the league's bottom line and future branding. The deeper context of this trade is where the NFL's panic truly reveals itself, because Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a quarterback, he was a business asset who moved markets in ways most rookies never touch. In Cleveland, his presence had already reshaped sponsorship discussions. Local partners like Progressive and Sherwin-Williams had quietly aligned new campaigns around his rise, while national brands saw the Browns as a rare crossover opportunity, given Sanders' connection to his father's Hall of Fame legacy and his appeal to a younger social media-driven audience. Early estimates suggested that Sanders could add nearly $20 million in incremental sponsorship value to Cleveland's profile this season alone, but with him traded, that projection collapses, leaving both the team and the NFL scrambling to redirect those dollars. Nationally, broadcast partners like NBC and ESPN had slotted Sanders into preseason highlight packages, betting that his debut games would anchor early season ratings boosts. Instead, they now face the likelihood of underperforming broadcasts, as the star power they marketed has been pulled away from one of the league's most passionate fan bases. Streaming and TV ratings paint the financial picture even more starkly. During Sanders' preseason starts, Browns games averaged 3.1 million viewers, up from 2.2 million in comparable slots last year. On streaming platforms, viewership doubled, with younger demographics accounting for the bulk of that growth. Those numbers were gold for the NFL, proving that Sanders could bridge the gap between traditional television and the league's push toward digital platforms like NFL Plus. By losing him in Cleveland, one of the league's most loyal regional markets, the NFL loses its cleanest test case for how a rookie quarterback can carry both linear and digital consumption. The impact is immediate. Advertisers who had paid premiums for Sanders-driven inventory may now demand make goods, while the league's internal projections for digital growth will need recalibration. In an era where every percentage point of streaming growth is scrutinized, the absence of Sanders could cost the league tens of millions by season's end. Fan sentiment metrics add another layer. Before the trade, Cleveland had ranked top 5 in league-wide social media engagement, largely because Sanders drove content virality at a scale unmatched by most rookies. His highlight reels were averaging over 12 million views per clip on Instagram and TikTok, nearly double what top veterans like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert typically generated in off-season content. Merchandise reflected that enthusiasm. His jersey was not only the highest selling among rookies, but outpaced stars like Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott for multiple weeks. After the trade, Cleveland's online shop saw a 2/3 drop in daily traffic, while his new team's digital platforms exploded with engagement, underscoring that this wasn't just a Cleveland issue but a league-wide transfer of marketability. For the NFL, which carefully balances spotlight distribution to maximize national coverage, Sanders' relocation skews audience attention in ways that could undermine regional growth strategies. Then there's the gambling and fantasy market, two pillars of the NFL's modern revenue structure. Sportsbooks reported that Browns-related prop bets plummeted by nearly 50% in the first 48 hours after the trade, wiping out what had been one of the hottest betting storylines of the preseason. Sanders' rushing yards, passing touchdowns, and even interception props had accounted for a disproportionate share of action, proving that casual fans were buying into his hype in ways that directly translated into revenue. Fantasy platforms showed the same trend. Leagues that had seen record signups tied to Sanders' availability suddenly face cancellations or redrafts, a disruption that hurts both engagement and subscription revenue. For a league that has leaned heavily on gambling and fantasy to drive viewership, losing Sanders from Cleveland isn't just a storyline, it's a measurable dip in two of its most lucrative side markets. All of this context explains why the NFL is reacting with urgency. The league rarely faces a moment where one rookie player impacts sponsorships, ratings, merchandise, fan engagement, and gambling simultaneously, and Sanders had already checked all of those boxes before playing a regular season down. The trade forces executives to rethink their marketing strategies, sponsors to reconsider investments, and fans to recalibrate their loyalty, creating a perfect storm of instability that no league wants in week 1. This isn't just Cleveland's problem, it's the NFL's bottom line at risk, and the deeper you analyze it, the clearer the panic becomes. Projecting forward, the implications of Andrew Berry's Shedeur Sanders trade stretch far beyond Cleveland's locker room. For the Browns, the immediate question is how this decision alters playoff math. Before the move, most simulations gave Cleveland close to a coin flip chance at the postseason, hovering just under 50% thanks to a mix of offensive optimism and a favorable early schedule. With Sanders gone, those odds have dipped into the high 20s, making them one of the biggest statistical losers of the offseason. That kind of swing isn't theoretical. It's the difference between selling out December home games with playoff stakes on the line and watching attendance lag as fans shift their attention to other franchises. Ticket markets are already hinting at this future. Resale prices for late season divisional matchups have fallen by nearly 40%, signaling that buyers no longer view those contests as must-see events. If the trend holds, Cleveland could finish the season with its lowest average attendance since 2017, erasing years of hard-earned progress. On a league-wide scale, the NFL now has to reconfigure its marketing calendar. Sanders had been slated for multiple primetime features, not only to showcase his talent, but to leverage his family name in crossover storylines that reached beyond football. Without him, networks will lean harder on veterans like Mahomes, Burrow, and Lamar Jackson to anchor ratings, but there's risk in oversaturating familiar faces. The NFL's growth strategy has been to blend emerging stars with established ones, and Sanders was the perfect candidate to lead that balance. His absence may force the league to accelerate marketing around other rookies, players like Caleb Williams or Drake May, but none carry the same mix of heritage, charisma, and proven draw. The danger is clear. By losing Sanders in Cleveland, the NFL risks a season narrative that feels recycled rather than fresh, which could dampen overall ratings momentum. For Cleveland's roster itself, the trade reshapes not only the quarterback depth chart, but the identity of the entire offense. Sanders had been developing timing with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, opening the door for Stefanski to stretch the field in ways that challenged even elite defenses. Without him, the offense reverts to a more conservative structure, one that's easier for opponents to scheme against. That shift doesn't just change win-loss projections, it influences player futures. Cooper, who is nearing the end of his contract, may now be less inclined to re-sign without a dynamic quarterback to elevate his production. Even the defense, which was expected to benefit from longer possessions and more consistent offensive rhythm, may see its workload increase, leading to fatigue and potential injuries as the season drags on. The ripple effect is that one trade could derail multiple phases of Cleveland's roster construction. Looking longer term, Sanders' career trajectory is now inextricably linked to how his new team manages him. If he flourishes, this trade will be remembered as one of the most lopsided in modern NFL history, casting Berry as a general manager who squandered the league's most marketable rookie. If Sanders struggles, Cleveland may argue that they dodged a bullet, though that argument will do little to repair the financial and cultural damage already inflicted. inflicted. Either way, the spotlight will follow Sanders relentlessly, making every snap of his rookie year a referendum on the Browns' decision-making. The NFL, meanwhile, will be forced to pivot marketing dollars toward his new franchise, risking imbalances in how attention is distributed across markets. For a league that thrives on parity, that concentration of star power could alienate fan bases who feel robbed of their chance to watch a generational talent develop in their city. The gambling and fantasy angles also shape the future outlook. With Sanders out of Cleveland, sportsbooks are already seeing decreased handle on Browns games, a trend that could accelerate if the team struggles early. Nationally televised games with Cleveland now carry less betting intrigue, reducing the league's leverage in negotiating with gambling partners. On the fantasy side, the ripple effect extends to skill players. Cooper's ADP, average draft position, has already slipped, while Sanders' new teammates are seeing surges in draft value. These shifts matter because fantasy football isn't just a hobby, it's a driver of weekly engagement. If Sanders boosts participation for his new franchise, while Cleveland's numbers collapse, the league will have clear evidence that this trade reshaped fan behavior at scale. Ultimately, the most significant implication may be cultural. Sanders represented more than Cleveland's future. He embodied a new generation of NFL talent that blurred lines between athletics, celebrity, and digital influence. His departure from one of the league's most tradition-rich fan bases robs the NFL of a storyline that could have carried not just this season, but the next decade. For the Browns, the future is now filled with uncertainty. For the league, the future is a scramble to replace a narrative engine it can't afford to lose. The trade doesn't just alter rosters, it alters trajectories, business models, and fan expectations in ways that will be measured for years to come. Andrew Berry's decision to trade Shedeur Sanders will be remembered as a line in the sand moment for both the Browns and the NFL. On one side, it strips Cleveland of a quarterback who wasn't just developing into a starter, but was quickly becoming the heartbeat of the franchise and a business engine for the league. On the other, it hands another team the keys to a player who could reshape ratings, merchandise, and competitive balance for the next decade. The numbers already tell the story: playoff odds plunging by double digits, ticket markets collapsing overnight, and national broadcasts losing the rookie storyline they had built months around. It's the rare move that carries consequences not just for one roster, but for an entire league economy. For Cleveland fans, the sting won't fade quickly. Sanders represented hope, and hope is a currency this franchise has rarely been able to spend. For the NFL, the panic is real, because this isn't just about Sanders' arm strength or accuracy. It's about the way he moved markets, shifted engagement, and brought in viewers who wouldn't otherwise be tuning in. Whether Berry's gamble proves genius or catastrophic will unfold over time, but the immediate reality is simple. The league has lost its most marketable rookie storyline, and there's no easy replacement waiting in the wings. So here's the question for you: did Andrew Berry just sabotage the Browns' future for the sake of a short-term gamble? Or will history vindicate this move as a bold masterstroke? And more importantly, has the NFL itself underestimated just how much one rookie quarterback can mean to its business, its fans, and its future?